At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. And today we are going over episode 1232, titled Rocket Dan Strikes Back. And here with me today is my evil partner in crime, my bro to the end, my ride or die, it's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, but I'm not as over-caffeinated as you, apparently.
Bro, if I'd be lying if I said I didn't down a whole monster before getting into this podcast, because we have a long show that we're getting ready to do today.
We do, but I think when we get down into the weeds, I don't think it's going to be that long.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Well, once we start powering through this, it'll be okay. It'll be good. So.
I think so, because once that ball gets rolling, and you stepped over my little line, because I was gonna say, you get a guy talking about Japanese toilets, he gets all excited, and just flew right through that.
So we got to preface the audience. So
no, we don't.
I do.
Keep them guessing for the whole. What the hell were they talking about at the beginning?
Japanese toilets. Were they watching South Park? Yes, we were watching South Park. But no, on a real note, I got curious and went to go and look up on Amazon how much bidets actually cost. And surprising to me, I was dumbfounded. Those motherfuckers cost like $30 some odd, bro.
Oh, hold on. That's not the whole. That's just like an attachment.
Yeah, that's the attachment. I ain't buying the whole damn set. That thing.
No. God, no.
No. I have a really. We just bought a couple really nice toilets for our home, and if I did get one of those, I would buy the attachment and just go click, click, click. There we go.
Oh, right.
But yeah, those things are only like 30-something bucks, and I was like, oh, that's fairly cheap for a squirting water bottle.
People at home with bidets go, whoa, when he puts it like that.
I might need to try this thing.
I don't even feel that special anymore.
This podcast is sponsored by Bidet. It makes sure that every hole is clean.
I was going to make a joke because I've legitimately listened to enough podcasts that I know the company that it would be, but I don't want to get us in trouble.
I know which one you're talking about, too. Would it happen to be on a Talk Is Person podcast?
Oh, I mean, that one for sure. You can't go 5 minutes on his show without hearing an ad. But just in general, it seems like there's a cycle of advertisers that go through these wrestling podcasts, and it's like, oh, this guy's got a code for this month.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bring this up on here.
Oh boy.
Because we had this conversation before, and yes, we'll get into the episode, but we always have a talking segment, and this is going to be one of our talking segments. I pay for Sirius XM.
Oh no.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they're on Sirius XM. They have regular shows like Howard Stern. You can listen to the radio, and different things like that. And they have ads because they're like a live broadcast, right? Okay.
Right.
There's also now, I guess, because SiriusXM has been trying to get more subscribers, so they've dived into the podcasting world. Okay?
As they should.
Yes. And by all means, podcasts are great, and I know that they generate a decent amount of income per ads. I mean that's how we all make livings here, is by the ads. You play the ads. But from what I know, and for us, when you have like a premium Spotify subscription, you don't hear the ads that we play at the beginning of each one of our episodes. On SiriusXM, I just happened to be listening to the Garcia twins, formerly known as the Bella twins, and they had easily 5 to 8 minutes worth of ads before they got into their goddamn episode. And I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for my son while he's in karate. And it got to the 5-minute mark. And I look over at my wife. I was like, what the fuck am I paying for? And she's like, they're making a living just like you guys. You guys have ads. They have ads. I was like, but I'm paying for a premium service that has a podcast on it, and I'm still hearing ads. I didn't agree with it. Do you agree with it? If you're paying for a premium service, if it's not a live broadcast like a Howard Stern or a sports radio show that's literally live on SiriusXM, if it's a podcast, should I be listening to ads, Doug?
Well, this is where you get into a gray area, obviously, because it's one thing when you're listening to a show and they either throw to a break because they're clued in enough to know where the ads are going to go, or you're listening to a show and an ad just comes on, because sometimes shows just get plugged into whatever, and ads get put here, there, and everywhere.
Yes.
And I listen to a good majority of both of those buckets, and I also listen to the type of shows that you're, for lack of a better word, bitching about, where they do an ad, but they frame it as a conversation that's organic to the show.
It wasn't organic. They didn't even get into the goddamn conversation. They started it and they started reading ads for 8 minutes.
Oh, see, and that speaks to their ability to. And I'm so glad that we don't have the kind of coverage where this is going to get picked up and ran with. It speaks to their ability to naturally speak.
Yeah. Because
a lot of these shows you can, if you listen to a show for a couple of weeks, you're like, okay, this is transitioning into an ad. And then, here's an ad for, freaking or whatever. But some of them, they can't even have fun with the copy because they've got to make sure to get the copy. So they just read the copy. And it's that's not fun. Those are the ones that I'll, hit the skip button on until they get back to the actual conversation. But if you can roll your ad into conversation and you can kind of stay in the show, I'll rock with you on that.
Okay.
Because I trust the way that you read, and it helps if you got multiple people. If it's just one guy, like a certain performer on Wednesday nights, if it's just him, that can get tedious real quick. But if you've got if it's like you and I, and we've got a or something, make that entertaining, while at the same time hitting what we need to hit in the copy. So to long-windedly answer your question that you asked about a half hour ago, those are the kind of ads that you're complaining about. Kind of got everybody by the short hairs because they can say, "Well, it's part of the conversation." Well, no, bitch, no, it wasn't the way you were reading it.
Yeah, that there was no conversation. There was nothing that you were talking about at all that had to do with your episode at all. And I'm just sitting here listening to plugged ads for 8 minutes. Because and this is what made it better. I'm sorry, and normally I don't bitch, and I know this might sound like I'm completely bashing the Garcias podcast, and I'm not. I love their show. I just did not like this part, which, I mean, freedom of speech I can talk about, but so don't slam me on Twitter or throw in those emails. I won't read or listen to them. But as they're doing the ads, they shot to real life commercials and then came back and then was still doing ads before they got into it.
So it's the double whammy, because it's like, it's an ad that's part of our show, but it's an ad, and then it's like, okay, their ad's done, they're going to get into the show. No, then it's a placed ad, and then you're like, well, this is shit.
Yeah. So I don't know. I felt a certain way, and it's just funny because me and my wife was on the side of the twins, and she was like, they're making a living. That's how they do their show. You can't bitch because it's not your show, which she's right. But then she also was like, well, call Doug up, call him up. And see how he feels. And I called you up, and we had part of this conversation then too. And your stance was very similar to what it is right now. But I just wanted to throw that out here on this podcast and was like, am I wrong, people? Am I just in a bad mood for having to listen to these ads? I mean, I know we have ads on our show. Please don't cancel us. But for people that actually pay, like if they pay for our Patreon, or if they're paying for premium Spotify, they don't have to listen to the ads. And that's just my gripe. I'm paying for a service like SiriusXM. I shouldn't have to listen to it unless it was said on air on a broadcast. And even Howard Stern is good when you're re-listening to his shows, that all the ads are taken out on replay. So
wait, because you said you were listening to that 8-minute spiel or whatever, and you said they would finish their read and then an ad would pop up. Well, that generated ad shouldn't have popped up then if you were on the paid stuff.
Well, the way that they had their stuff set up is they would be doing their, like the twins would do their ad. And then after the twins did part of their ad, then a regular commercial came on, which but I believe that they have all this meshed into their actual podcast. Like they say, here's SiriusXM, here's the file. And I think that's what it was, because it just seemed perfectly placed. And then after that ad played, they came back and they were still doing ads. It was really annoying. It was really
and it really depends, because I can send you some examples where, like, they're transitioning into a freaking a MeUndies ad or whatever. I don't even know if MeUndies is a thing. It's like, here's this MeUndies segment, takes them 5 minutes because they're riffing on the material. And it's like, that's something I'll sit there and listen to. But if it's a generated ad for O'Reilly's Auto Parts, it's like, well, I can skip that.
Exactly.
So I mean, it really goes both ways. It's up to the podcast. It's like how do you take your reads? If you're just straight down the line, I've got to get all this stuff that's in the copy in this spot, and that's skip. But if it's like I can riff on this, and we can do 10 minutes on this Manscaped ad.
You're not, like I said, you're not wrong, bro.
But if you'll say one thing about the Garcias, it's not like they're queens of improv.
No, they're not. They're not.
We all heard the promo where Nikki said she wished Brie died in the womb.
Yep. But she was playing a character, Doug. She was.
She was. Yeah, that wasn't Nicole Garcia. That was Nikki Bella. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, all right. Well, this is a Pokemon podcast, and you wouldn't know it, but it is.
Now here's an ad for... Never mind.
Here's an ad from... Place ad here.
Say a name of it, and don't say a real company just in case.
I know. I found out we have so many different sponsors for this podcast that I'm scared to say anything because they might sponsor our damn show. With Spotify, we have so many. But back to the Pokemon episode that we're getting ready to go over, Doug. So Rocket Dan Strikes Back. We found out shortly that this is a part 1 to a 2-parter episode.
That's not really advertised.
Yeah, it's not advertised, but it is. I was completely wrong. I thought this was going to be some kind of blow-off episode when I saw the preview for it. Wasn't so hype on it. Wasn't a bad episode. I mean, we'll get into it. I'm not going to give my take on it, but I'd be wrong to say I guess I should be right to say I kind of take back my statements from the past 2 episodes that we did. Because this episode did kind of change my mind, and I did enjoy this before we do get into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, because you were kind of feeling a certain way, kind of based off, based off of like some of the information you were gathering and the trailer at the end of the last episode.
Yes, I was. I was feeling a certain way, and I maybe don't. I shouldn't take these previews lightly, especially when it's getting down to the last few. I should have known Pokemon wasn't going to fuck around, and oh, did they not fuck around? But I was still a little bit let down. We'll get into this episode, but are you ready to jump on into this episode, bro?
I'm very excited to dive into this. Yes.
All right. So I'm about to hit the play button again. This is episode 9 of Ash's last 11 episodes. And we start this episode with Ash stretching, putting his arms in. He's like, oh man, this is such a nice day. He's still being followed by Brock and Misty. And the narrator is like, it is such a great day today. And what type of Pokemon will our heroes see in this episode? And out of nowhere comes a freaking Delibird that just comes flying over them. It's very rare to see one of these Pokemon, especially in this type of atmosphere, because they're normally in the cold. But even Brock made a comment. He's like, it's pretty unusual to see one of those out here. It flies on by. It flies by Latias. And Latias is in her invisible form, still following our heroes. And Latias even turns her head and is like, huh? What are you doing out here? And Delibird just keeps on going. It's flying in the forest. It's starting to go down. And we see Jesse and James Meowth and Wobbuffet, and their feet hurt and they're tired, and they're like, man, we don't have anything to report to Giovanni. What are we going to do? And then all of a sudden, Delibird flops right in front of them. And James is like, wait a minute, that's Deli the Delibird. And
I got a chuckle out of that.
And Jessie, she's like, why are you here? And Delibird brings out some food and is like, I got food. And Jesse, James, Wobbuffet, and Meowth, they're like, oh my gosh, a boxed lunch. Oh my goodness. And they turn around, they just
house it. I mean,
they man, if they would have, they housed that food down quick. And they turn around and they're like, thank you, Delibird. Thank you for all of the food. And Meowth is like, man, I'm so stuffed, meow. And Jesse's like, do you have any seconds? And Delibird's like, do I have seconds? Wait until you get a load of this. And it reaches his hand inside of the sack and throws up a whole bunch of Pokeballs. And out of the Pokeballs comes, and I'm gonna have to go to this list because it's a lot. So you get Mime Jr., you get, let's see, Seviper, Yamanga, Wobat, Frillish, Gorgeist, let's see, Carnivine, Yamask, Among Us, Inkay, and I believe that is it. Yes, that is it. So all of these Pokemon come out of their Pokeballs, referencing all of the Pokemon that Jesse and James have encountered and captured throughout the years. And they're like, oh my gosh, what? These are all of our Pokemon. And Jessie is like, she's like, oh my gosh, it's been so long. And we look over at James, and James is like, he just starts naming off all his Pokemon. He's like, Mime Jr., Inkay, Among Us, Yamask, Carnivine. Oh my goodness. And Meowth is like, it's a big gathering of all of our Pokemon. And Wobbuffet's like, oh my gosh, Wobbuffet. And we go straight into the intro for this episode. And then for once, I'm gonna acknowledge this because it was different. But instead of Pikachu doing the title sequence, we actually got Meowth playing with the Pokeball, and it opens up and it says Team Rocket's Counterattack. And which, I mean, that's the name that they put for this. Wiki and Bulbapedia has it as Rocket Dawn Strikes Back, but Meowth did the title sequence this week, Doug, and I'm going to send this on over to you.
And that makes sense, obviously, with this being really Team Rocket centric. So we cut back, and Delibird is going into its bag for one more thing, and we get this bright flash, and we see this gigantic golden statue of Giovanni, and he's holding out a Pokeball, and he's kind of giving off like Iron Man vibes. And then all of a sudden the eyes start to glow, and we hear a voice, and it's, Jesse, James, Meowth. And they're stunned. They're like, oh my God, it's Giovanni. He's become a statue. And he basically says, what we said in the aftermath of Delibird throwing out all the Pokemon. He's like, these are all your Pokemon that you've met over the various regions. And, pardon me. And he's like, well, they're yours, and we think that you're capable of taking care of them. So, keep it on the straight and narrow. And Meowth's like, bet. And the statue's like, that's it. And the fucking thing just explodes. And, Jesse and James are sitting there going, heh, heh, heh. And then we see Delibird is departing, and everybody's like, thank you, Delibird, thank you, send our regards to Giovanni, thanks for the lunches, we were almost dead. And and Meowth's like, Giovanni's going to be expecting us to prove our worth with all of these Pokemon. And he's looking around and everybody's standing there, and he's like, oh, it's all of our Pokemon, huh? And he, and then Jesse and James are kind of in like a bit of a fantasy, and they think about Weezing and Arbok and Victory Bell and
all the Pokemon that they don't have anymore that's out in the wild.
Right, and this is one of your gripes. It's like they brought back all of Team Rocket's Pokemon except for Arbok and Weezing and Lickitung and Victory Bell and
let's see, Victory Bell, that one. Let's see, we have a Dustox, we have a Mimikyu, and I believe, and Mareanie is the other one that they did not mention.
So Meowth is standing there. He goes, "Wonder if they're all still doing well." And we find out that these Pokemon are referred to as graduated Pokemon, and we don't really know what that means, other than they couldn't be bothered to be in that satchel with Delibird.
Yeah, they're not coming back. You've seen enough of those Pokemon.
James is like, well, in order to repay Giovanni's kindness and prove that we're worthy of such an honor, we must get that Pikachu. And Meowth calls them, says, we're going to be the Team Rocket Revengers.
Which is not a bad name that they have.
No, it's not.
For this episode.
It's not, but it just makes you think of the Avengers, which is obviously another franchise.
Yeah.
And, Jesse and James kind of echo your sentiments. They're like, that's an awesome name. Meowth's like, well, now that that's taken care of, we just need to plan the operation. And James is like, I've got a good idea. And Jesse's like, well, then why don't you tell us all if you're so proud of yourself? And we fade to black, and then we come back to Ash and the gang continuing to walk in the forest until Pikachu hears something off to the right.
Yes, and from off to the right, Pikachu notices Mime Jr. is just coming out of the bushes, and Mime Jr. is like, oh my gosh, I need some help. I need help. And Ash is like, Mime Jr.? And Mime Jr. is like, help me, I need help. And Pikachu immediately jumps out. I loved the attention to detail here. Pikachu walks over and looks at Mime Jr. and looks Mime Jr. right in the eyes and is like, "You're Team Rocket." just jumped right back after meeting eyes with it. Is like, "The fuck are you doing over here?" And Pikachu's like, she's like, "Pika." And Mime Jr.'s like, "Help me, I need help." And Ash is like, "What's wrong with Mime Jr., Pikachu?" And Pikachu is like, "That's Team Rocket, Pika, Pika, Pika." But of course they don't understand Mime Jr. And Mime Jr. is like, "Mime Jr., help me. And Misty's like, "It looks like it's begging for our help." And Brock notices Pikachu, and Pikachu's like, "But Pikachu is wary of it." And Mime Jr. is about to cry. And then is about to pretend to faint. And Ash is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," goes down and catches Mime Jr. in his arms. Mime Jr. looks up. And it's like, "Mime Jr., help me." And Ash is like, "Pikachu, we need to help Mime Jr." And Pikachu is like, "Fine." And Ash is like, "Are you okay, Mime Jr.?" And Mime Jr. smiles. And this is when we hear James in the background going, "Are you ready? So here's the plan." And we go to a small montage of James telling Mime Jr. what to do. So he's telling Mime Jr., "First, you go to the Brat Boys and you act like, 'Oh, I'm being chased by Team Rocket. Help me, making them trust you." And he's doing the motion that Mime Jr. was doing. And he gets down to Mime Jr.'s level and he's like, "And here's the pose to really sell it. Oh, Mime Jr." And he does the "help me" face. "Help me." And Mime Jr. mimics him and is like, "Help me." And it's from there, we go right back to real time. And Mime Jr. is walking over to Pikachu and it grabs Pikachu's hand. It's like, "Help me. And Pikachu is sitting there. It's like, "Fine. I have a badge of honor to help a Pokemon in need, so I'm going to help you." And Mime Jr. is like, "Great." Duh. Take it from here.
And Ash is kind of sitting there. He's like, "That's the spirit." And look up in the tree, and this is when we get our first, well, not our first glimpse, but this is when Ash and the crew see Team Rocket for the first time, and they're doing their motto, and this is probably as close to the original motto as we've gotten in this, a little 9-episode span so far. And, it's kind of all over the place. Like, they're posing like superheroes at one point, and they're literally skipping through the galaxy, and, they wrap up, and Misty's the first one to go, "Team Rocket." And what do you want?
Don't you get tired of chasing us for 20-something years?
And this is when James takes a breath, and he goes into acting mode, and he's like, "Mime Jr., you used to be so bad. What happened?" And he's got like tears in his eyes. He's like, "How could you turn on me? This is so devastating." And Misty's like, "I am so lost right now, it's not even funny." And Ash is like, "Oh, you don't have to hit me over the head with a hammer." He's like, "This is Team Rocket's Mime Jr." Which isn't fair. It's actually James's Mime Jr., but if we're going to split hairs, we're going to be here all night. And so Ash says that, and Misty goes, "Holy shit!" And and Brock's like, "You see, that's why Pikachu was kind of had its heckles up there, when it first wandered out." And Pikachu's like, he's like, I want to say I told you so bad." And then Mime Jr., I think, kind of sensing that, kind of goes behind Pikachu to kind of shield itself. And Pikachu's like, don't you make me put my guard down. And, yes, he's like, it betrayed us. And, was trying to wander around the forest for help. And, yeah, it's like it was gonna sell us down the river to the police. And he's like, you're a disgrace to villains everywhere. He's got this really ugly look on his face, and Mime Jr.'s still kind of selling the fear. And at this point, you're kind of unsure. You're like, at this point, how much of this is acting and how much is Mime Jr. like legitimately frightened? And Pikachu's kind of, squared up because he's like, I knew I was right, but Team Rocket's still kind of jackasses, and I, shouldn't have to take it out on this poor Mime Jr. And Meowth's like, we'll be taking Mime Jr. and leaving now. And Ash is like, he's like, if this is what you're really up to, there's no way I'm going to hand over Mime Jr. to you. And and Jesse's like, listen, this legitimately has nothing to do with you. So if you would just kindly mind staying out of our business. And
honestly, with as much trouble as Team Rocket has given me throughout the years, at that point I would have been like, you know what? You're right. Mime Jr., I'm sorry. Bye. And just would have just dipped.
And, James like, we don't, take well to traitors here in Team Rocket. And Meowth's like, that's right. We're gonna catch it, and I'm gonna sentence it to chaotic scratches. And he like pops his claws out of his hands like Wolverine. And Wobbuffet tries to screw up its face and look tough.
Which was pretty badass. Let's be honest. That was a cool, like, if I could get a screenshot of Meowth just taking its claws out like that, it looked pretty badass for a moment.
With the little glowing effect when they first popped out too.
Yeah, for real.
And this is where again we see Mime Jr.'s kind of tearing up a little bit, and like I say, how much of it is acting and how much is Mime Jr. like a little bit disturbed. And Ash is like, all right, Pikachu, use Thunderbolt. And Pikachu charges up and lets go of a Thunderbolt so bad it lights up the whole damn forest, and then we see like a smoking mushroom cloud. And James goes flying up and goes, don't you think we've forgotten about you, Mime Jr.? And don't you think we're done with you or whatever?
Jesse James and Meowth and Wobbuffet all have an afro, kind of like how mine is right now. It just puffs up into like one big perm and just, we'll be back.
And so they're gone. And he's like, you don't have to bother, like real like shit talk behavior, like they're gone, and she's insisted on getting that last line in.
Yep.
So then, Brock's like, we need to hurry and get it to we need to hurry and report this to Officer Jenny. We don't have a second to waste.
And it's at that moment that Brock is sitting there and he's like, oh, Officer Jenny. And when we see Officer Jenny, and Krogon comes right out of its Pokeball, and it's like, enough about that. But the animation that they gave Brock when he was getting ready to talk about Officer Jenny,
I can't stand that shit.
They gave him the like handsome, like good looking eyes animation. And he's like, and Mime Jr. And when we see Officer Jenny, I just want you to tell her. And then Krogon goes and just stings him right in the butt. And Misty is like, we don't have time for all of this. So Brock is like, just let me dream. And she's like, yeah, okay, you can dream when you're asleep. And his body just hits the ground and he just kind of like seizes out. He's like, I'm so numb.
Awful stuff.
I know. And Mime Jr. jumps right back up into Ash's arms. And Ash is like, Mime Jr., we'll take you to the meetup spot. So come with us. And Pikachu's like, yeah, come. And Mime Jr. points into the forest and is like, this way. So they start running into the forest. And then all of a sudden they get a big boom. You just see a big flash of lightning or something just hit the ground. And Ash is like, whoa, what was that? And then all of a sudden, a Moongus comes flying out. And Ash is like, a Moongus. And then off to the side, a Yamanga comes flying out. And they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And Yamangas come down and starts attacking. And it gets right behind Among Us. And this is where we go back to Meowth talking to the rest of the Pokemon. And we get a flashback, and Meowth is like, and once Mime Jr. has their trust, it's your turn. Isolate them one by one. And we go back to the Among Us, and Among Us in real time sends out a stun spore or a sleep powder. And Ash is like, oh no, sleep powder. If we get hit by this, we'll fall asleep. And Brock is like, you know what? I got the perfect Pokemon for this. And he goes and he sends out his Ludicolo to use water gun to war off the sleep powder that is in the air. Doug, you want to take it from this spot?
And Among Us and what's the dragonfly?
Oh, Yamanga.
Like, oh shit, they figured out, you know, it was like our one thing that we were supposed to do. And Ludicolo's sitting there going, that's right, I did that shit. And Misty's like, why did they attack like that? And Brock's like, well, it's simple. They either think we're invading their turf, or Misty cuts him off and he goes, they're Team Rocket in pursuit. This is, you know, it's a setup. And Brock summons back out his Krogon, and Pikachu and Ash and Mime Jr. go running off, and Brock's like, right, now that that's taken care of, and he pulls out a set of Pokeball maracas, and Ludicolo, Brock, and Krogon do a little, you know, dance, and
they do the Brock dance, Brock's famous dance, and the only song that he knows how to do in all the episodes.
Among Us and
Yamanga.
They're just standing there going, what in the fuck is going on? And they kind of get into it because the rhythm's infectious, and you know, it's all of a sudden it's this big, you know, jam party, and we have to leave that because that's too much fun. And we cut to Misty, Ash, and Pikachu, and they're standing at a fork in the road. They're like, which way do we go? Which way do we go? And they decide to go, pardon me, to the left. And Latias is, no, that wasn't Latias. That was
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was Latias.
Was it Latias? I wasn't sure if it was the other one. He kind of had a mean look on his face. I wasn't sure. But then we get the Who's That Pokemon. This is when we find out that it's Latias, which wasn't it Latias in episode 1?
It might have been. Actually, I can go back and check that right now.
I believe that's on Bulbapedia. So we're back in the episode, and Misty and Ash and Pikachu encounter this really fog-ridden area.
No, that Pokemon was it's a Wombat. Who's that? Oh, Noivern. Sorry. It was a Noivern.
Okay. And pardon me. So when the fog clears, they're confronted by a
Frillish.
I was going to say, I really wish when you hovered over the names on the Bulbapedia, like the image would show up.
I wish. I'm sure they'll get to that one day.
One day.
Yes.
So they're confronted by the Frillish, and Frillish throws out what looks to be a shadow ball. And Pikachu, or Ash is like, Pikachu, counter that with Thunder Shock. And, he does. And
out of the shadow ball, Yamask shows up.
And then Yamask uses a move that I probably know what it's called because we've seen Yamask before in Black and White. And this is when Misty calls out her Staryu to obliterate Yamask's attack with water gun. So that must be one hell of a water gun. And Misty looks over at Ash and goes, "You keep going. I can handle this." And once again, she's like, "This has got to be Team Rocket, doing like a divide and conquer kind of thing." And
I loved this next part when Psyduck comes out.
Yeah, and then so Ash and Pikachu go running off in the opposite direction. And then Psyduck inserts itself in the conversation. And Psyduck is standing there like, I want some, you don't want these hands. And
comes out looking so confident.
Misty's like, Psyduck, you want some of this action? And Psyduck, stands there, does the double bicep. And freaking the mask, we don't even see it. It's just Yamask just hurls himself. And he's stuck on Psyduck's head, and Psyduck, isn't the calmest fella.
Well, it doesn't wask himself. It takes the mask portion of its form and just throws it right on top of Psyduck's head. and the mask is stuck on top of Psyduck, and Psyduck's like, "Oh my god, get it off me, get it off, get it off, get it off."
and so Psyduck, runs into Staryu, and we got back to Yamask and Frillish, and they're just tee hee hee, what an idiot. And then we come and we see that Ash is booking it with Pikachu and Mime Jr., and Pikachu's bounding up some rocks, and all of a sudden he's grabbed by a vine by the tail, and Ash throws out his
Infernape.
I was going to say, I want to say Blaziken, but I know that's not right. His Infernape?
Yes. Infernape.
Infernape. Okay. And he's like, what is he? Fire Punch?
Yeah,
Mega Punch or whatever.
Mac Punch.
And it breaks the vine. And when the vine retracts, we see that it's another one of Team Rocket's Pokemon.
Carnivine.
And this is when we see the
Gorgeous.
And at a certain point, I mean, I know they obviously weren't privy to a reunion. Obviously, if they were, it'd be like a 10-minute episode. But Ash is like, I'm just getting ambushed by these Pokemon. And
Team Rocket actually had a good idea for once.
He puts down Mime Jr. and he's like, Pikachu, watch Mime Jr. for me. Infernape and I are gonna, take care of this shit. And Pikachu's like, I got you. And they run off, and then Ash throws out his
Halucha.
So we've got like a 2-on-2 stare down, and the Team Rocket's Pokemon are kind of bouncing like, come on, you don't want this work. And they all four kind of dive at each other, and then we randomly cut up to a tree and
a slack off.
Which, by the way, 10 out of 10 name for that Pokemon, by the way, just no notes. And Pikachu and Mime Jr. are running, and they stop on this stump, and it's weirdly kind of surrounded by like a ring of rocks, and Pikachu's kind of looking around.
It's like something's about to happen.
And then literally out from the shadows, Jesse comes out and is like, we'd never let you get away,
Mime Jr.
Which, by the way, when this gets localized to English, that can't sound as menacing as it probably does in Japanese.
I know. Well, Mime Jr. in the American version, James calls him Mimey.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, I could live with that.
Yes.
And then James comes out from the opposite side, and he reiterates what he said earlier. He says, Team Rocket doesn't ever forgives a traitor. And Meowth comes out from behind. He goes, accept your punishment, meow. And Pikachu jumps in front of Mime Jr. and is like,
I'll save you.
If you want Mime Jr., you're going to have to go through me, kind of thing. And then Wobbuffet is just in a well. And like, I might be stuck.
But I'm still here.
And James has some kind of shooter, kind of looks kind of nerfish, if you ask me.
It's like a Nerf gun for your hand.
And he's like, Mime Jr., prepare yourself. And this is when the inevitable turn happens, and Mime Jr. grabs Pikachu in like a full Nelson, and Meowth's like, get him! And, they're tussling, and Pikachu is able to get out of Mime Jr.'s grasp and does a barrel roll away. And we find out that, Mime Jr. wasn't as smooth. And
he just waves to the camera. He's like, hi.
He's like, I'm in a net. This happened. And Jesse and Meowth are like, oh, and
like Mime Jr., the plan was going so well until right now.
was like, I can't be too bad because you're my Pokemon. And Mime Jr. kind of looks dejected, and he's like, maybe I could use the look. And he does the look that he was doing to, Ash and the gang. And, James is simpleton, so he, like, immediately forgives. He's like, you did a great job, Mime Jr. He hugs him. He's like, you leave the rest to us. And Wobbuffet's, once again, he's simple as well, so he's got tears in his eyes. And Pikachu's getting ready, and he's distracted because Wobbat comes in using like I think it's like air cut or something.
Yeah.
And the not quite Arbok pops up, and he's getting ready to use Iron Tail, and then another Pokemon blasts him with like a psychic bubble beam, and we pan up and we see that Pikachu is literally surrounded, and he's got like no backup. Like he's literally by himself because Ash is over on the beach, and Misty and Brock are otherwise preoccupied.
And Pikachu is like, fuck. Just surrounded by Wobbat, Team Rocket, and all the rest of their Pokemon. And it's at this point that Jessie is like, guys, don't you dare let Pikachu get away. And then she has the extra net gun in her hand, and Meowth takes out its claws, and they're glowing gold again. And Meowth is like, yeah, I'm here. So Viper and Wobbuffet are like, yeah, we got you now. Inky and Woobat are like, yeah, let's go. And Inky looks like it's getting ready to do one of its attacks. Pikachu is like, crap. He's like, but I know I can take all of you. We pan away. We see that Latias is in the air watching this whole thing. Inky comes down and just starts power fisting Pikachu. So it's like, bam, bam, bam. And Wobbat's coming down and using its wing attack, and Pikachu is like, Thunder Shock! And Latias is looking so defeated. It's like, I need to help. And it starts using some type of psychic attack, and it's noticing everything that's going on, and it's seeing Ash, it's seeing Misty, it's seeing Brock. It's going back and it's looking at Pikachu. Pikachu's in trouble, and Latias is like, oh, what do I do? It looks over at Ash again, and Ash is like, oh, I felt that. What was that? and he's like, enough playing over here. And he tells his Pokemon, he's like, come on, we got to go save Pikachu. And it's from this point that Jessie's Gorgeous starts shooting up seeds into the air to let Team Rocket know, hey, Ash is coming. And
kind of a who do you
and Jessie and James was like, oh, they figured out our plan. And Jessie's like, let's catch Pikachu real quick and retreat. And it's from this point that Halucha comes flying in, jumps right in front of Slackoff, and jumps onto one of the rocks. Is like, I am here. And Pikachu is just like, Thundershock, Thundershock, Thundershock. And Halucha just jumps off of one of the rocks as Seviper is coming in. Jumps
straight curve stomp, just not even
for real, just bam, right on top of Seviper. And Halucha is like, yeah, I'm here. And both Jessie and James was like, yeah, let's catch Pikachu. They both shoot out a net. Infernape comes rolling in with a flame wheel and gets caught in the net and puts the net on fire, and basically the net goes up in flames, so there's no more nets. All of Team Rocket's Pokemon make their way back over to the scene, and they're now Ash and his Pokemon and Pikachu are now surrounded by all of Team Rocket. And Team Rocket's like, it's Revengers time! All the Team Rocket's Pokemon does a pose, and I'm gonna point it out here. I'm not sure if this is gonna translate to the English version, but they start playing a Team Rocket Japanese song in the background, which was one of their songs that they had back in the day in Pokemon. And this song is playing in the background, Jesse is like, this is not over yet. And Meowth is like, hand over Pikachu right now. And Ash is like, no, what's going on? He's like, Mime Jr., didn't you leave Team Rocket? And Meowth, of course, being the villains in a kid's show, is like, that was a lie. It was an act to isolate Pikachu. As they go and tell their whole plan. And James is like, you fell hook, line, and sinker to Mime Jr.'s masterful performance. And then James does the help me face. And then Jesse's like, now, Revengers, let's nab each and every one of them. It's time. And then all of Team Rocket's Pokemon gets like a whole bunch of Shadow Balls and just a whole bunch of strong attacks, and all of them put their attacks all into one, and it's one big ball of an attack, and it's going over towards Ash. And Ash is like, we gotta dodge this. Infernape grabs Ash and just jumps out of the way. Halucha grabs Pikachu and jumps out of the way, and they dodge this big attack. But now the attack is going over towards Team Rocket. And it's at this point Wobbuffet jumps in and takes the full blow from this attack, blocking Team Rocket from getting hit. But the attack is too strong. And Wobbuffet takes it and just blasts it back at all of the Pokemon that sent the attack out. But instead, all of those Pokemon move out of the way. It hits a tree, and the tree takes the full blunt, and the whole tree explodes. Slackoff was in the tree. It goes flying up. Slackoff starts falling out of the tree, and he's like, oh, this is a bad day, isn't it?
That's fantastic.
Slackoff is sitting there, and he's just floating towards the ground. Ash jumps up and is like, I'll save you. He grabs Slackoff, and as he's falling towards the ground and he's about to go head first, that's when Latias goes over and scoops him up in its invisible form, and everyone's like, what's going on? Because all they see is Ash being driven in the air, and he floats to the ground. And Misty is like, did he just float? And Brock is like, yeah. And that's when Ash starts putting two and two together. He's like, it's you, isn't it, Latias? And Ash looks around, and Latias comes down and finally shows its true form again, and it meets eyes with Ash, and Missy's like, Latias, and Brock's like, Latias? And if everyone remembers, Brock and Misty were not with Ash yet when Ash first encountered Latias back in the very first episode. So this is their first time seeing Latias live in person, because all Ash has done is told them the story. So Doug, I'm going to hand this on over to you for the ending of this episode.
And Latias turns his attention to the Revengers and takes them all, like, she literally like hit control I think is it Control A, and she like grabbed everybody.
Yes.
And he spins them around and just flings them up. Like they literally took the show. The show took like a JPEG of them all standing there, spun the JPEG around, and just said, "Phew!"
And they all went bye-bye.
It was an awful feeling, and everybody else is stunned, but they and over to pour slack off, and he's just over it. He's like, oh, it's an interesting Tuesday. And he goes and goes and kind of walks away at his own pace, and Ash is like, sorry to excite you, you probably got to go lay down for like 3 months. And
and this is when we get the big part of the episode.
So this is one of the rare times that we actually get to see where Team Rocket lands when they go, blasting off again. And they're sitting there and they're just lamenting. They're like, that was a perfect plan. How could it fail? And like Mime Jr.'s acting was perfect. And Jesse kind of looks over and goes, you were kind of slow firing that net, weren't you, James? And James kind of stands up. He goes, are you seriously blaming me for that? And Boba Fett's like, yeah. And he's like, I was just following off of you two, and you both said now. And, you chose to tell me to fire at the wrong time. And I was like, well, hold on now. This wasn't my fault. And Jesse's like, I don't know about all that. And then Meow's like, well, Jesse, you were the one to tell us to grab them all of them. We could have just been focused on Pikachu. And Jesse looks, he's like, well, wasn't this whole thing your idea? Like, weren't you the one doing the whole Ocean's 11 bullshit? And she then points to James and she's like, you're losing a step, old age and all that. Your senses of evil are dulling. And Meow's like, now hold on now. Some things you can't come back from. We shouldn't be saying things we can't take back. And his claws come out and they're all standing there. They're all kind of squaring off at each other. Boba Fett's about to have a panic attack. Meowth has his claws and he kind of blows on him like a villain would blow on a pistol in an action movie. And
he puts his claws away.
He's like, this is it for us. And Jesse's like, yes, I believe it's the end of the line. And poor James isn't allowed to have an original thought. He's like, the end of the line indeed. And it's all dramatic and they're all kind of in shadow and they all three walk off in opposite directions, leaving their Pokemon, by the way. So that's bullshit.
Yeah. And
then we immediately do a smash cut back to Ash. He's saying goodbye to Latias and he's saying goodbye / hello, I guess. Like, that was you, wasn't it? And, he says thank you for, saving my ass because I would have been a stain on the field over there. And he, unfortunately, has the task of playing catch-up because, like you said, her and Brock weren't with him, from the jump. And
so
Misty's like, well, that's right.
They literally replay all the moments again, right? Or Latias plays it right into Ash's head.
Right. So it's kind of an insult to viewers if you've been with us. With us / with, this little segment since the beginning. It's like, we've been here. And then Latias has another vision, and this time it's a Latios?
Latios.
Latios. Okay, we'll see. Of course. They're like, oh my god, it's Latios, fuck me. And he like does an attack and he breaks the vision, and we see it shooting out of a corridor, and we see like explosions, and we see the sky, we see clouds, and then like the feed like kind of cuts out, and Latias is kind of standing there like, oh man, some shit's about to go down.
And that's when we find out that this is not just a one-part episode. This is a two-parter. Because they immediately take us right out of this episode, and the narrator is like, what is going on? We will find out next week on Pokemon.
You're sitting there going, son of a bitch.
Yeah, for real.